shoot over to the DXY, very, very bullish. So again, price looks like it's bounced from that area on the 4-hour time frame very, very well. I was looking for price to either form a higher low or come back and respect the same low, so an equal low, double bottom. In other words, didn't really happen. We had the gap to the upside like Monday, Tuesday last week, consolidated for most of the week, and then of course on Friday we had that kind of slight push to the upside, which was kind of insinuating potentially we might see a bullish dollar next week, or at least a push next week to the upside. Whether, of course, that will remain the whole week, we'll have to wait and see. But we had this really big week to the downside, closed very strongly bullish. EURUSD closed very strongly bearish, pound USD as well. USD had a big candle to the upside. So we'll take a look at that in a second. But we were having some type of bullish momentum right at the end of last week. And of course, in terms of the larger structure, we were looking for continuation to the upside. We had the high over there, higher low, higher high. So the job was, or the plan was, looking for the next higher low. I like this area here a lot because we had a nice consolidation there. Really strong move to the upside. Price never came back to revisit it until then. So it was a nice fresh area of demand, support, resistance. And price had a really strong reaction from that. So for the DXY, I actually do expect us to see more upside back to the swing high, because I'm just basically looking for the continuation of a trend here. So if that's the next, if that's the previous higher low, that's the next higher high, then I'm anticipating this to be the next higher low, and I'm looking for the next higher high. So I actually do still see more upside for the dollar. Again, long term, we're still holding on to that weekly level of support, which was prior resistance over here, now acting as support. So as long as we stay above this and we still keep that momentum up outside of this range here on the weekly chart, long term, I do still see the DXY pushing back to that high at 113. So I'm still very long-term bullish USD. So pretty much that's my bias. Of course, there'll be times for retracement and times to go counter that trend. But at the moment, I do think USD is likely going to continue higher. Of course, it was a very big move to the upside. Many gaps in the market. We could see a bit of retracement before that happens. I probably wouldn't be surprised if that does happen, to be honest. But in terms of the bigger move for dollar, I still do see it back to the upside to take out these highs at some point in the near future. So very, very bullish on the DXY. Again, this would be a nice place for price to retrace to. I'm not too sure we'll pull back that far. Maybe we do, but that would be a nice place. And of course, we'll see the corresponding areas in other USD markets. That would be nice for the dollar. But yeah, anticipating new highs past 110 pretty soon. In terms of EURUSD, again, just basically looking at the inverse of the DXY. So I've been expecting euro to get back to these lows here. And again, we're very close to doing that. This was our prior swing low. This was our lower high. This is our new lower low. So again, I'm anticipating this high to be now the next lower high. And I'm looking for price to go and take out those lows. Now, of course, we do have a massive gap just ahead of us here. Price could potentially go and fill that first before continuation. And in fact, that would be great. That would be great if price did that, because, again, gaps in the market are not necessarily, just the areas where price has been kind of inefficient in terms of filling that area, because, of course, transactions between euro and USD don't just stop on Friday. They continue throughout the whole week. So it's not that, of course, to us traders, they stop on Friday. And then they reopen Sunday evening, or depending where you are in the world. But transactions between euro and dollar don't stop over the weekend. So there are price action here, and potentially price might want to go fill that inefficiency before continuing. So we could see that happen for euro, hence why buyers could be a smart play in the meantime, taking advantage of that gap, of that potential retracement before continuing lower. So I can understand the bias from that point of view, but in my eyes, the trend is still very much down. Momentum is still very much down, and USD still looks very bullish as well. So I'm anticipating us to go take out these lows at some point. And like I said, potentially might see retracement to fill the gap and then a drop, which would be great, actually, because if we could see that happen, that could provide some nice opportunities later in the week on the lower time frames to find another lower high to keep shorting. In fact, that's what I want price to do. I wouldn't want it to take out the lows there, because it doesn't really present an opportunity for myself. If we do push up, opportunities do present, and we can keep shorting it. If we do like just dump to the downside and take out the lows, then I want to see a lot of momentum from from euro, and then I'll be looking for the next pullback for the next bearish leg. So yeah, pretty bearish on euro. Big gap there. Potentially could go look to retrace that and find some lower highs higher up in the week. That would be nice. But yeah, I just have to wait and see if that's going to be the situation that will occur. In terms of direction, very bearish, expecting these lows to be taken out again at some point in the future. Pound USD, same situation as well. Of course, euro and pound, very, very similar currency pairs. Big push to the downside here for pound USD, not as big as a gap as euro, but again, still pretty big gap. And I still see pound USD pushing back to the lows here. That's still very much the plan. Again, if I zoom out, excuse me, onto the daily chart, you can see we do have these clean lower lows and lower highs since the high printed back over here in September. High over there, another lower high, another lower high. So again, looking at this as potentially the next in that sequence, and we're probably going to see a push back to these lows here if the trend does continue, which is what I'm anticipating it to do. So again, with the big gap there for pound USD, we could see price come back, go and retest that range, fill the gap as well, then potentially continue on its path to the downside back into these lows. Again, that would be a great opportunity because right now we've had a big gap. It's difficult to short now, but if price does go fill the gap, retest some of the consolidation, we can find some entries in that area and possibly continue that trend back to these lows, or at least back to where we came from. So if you do get a short up there, push back to that low makes a load of sense there. So pound USD in terms of direction, again, still very bearish, expecting more downside. We potentially could go and fill that gap, which would be great in terms of opportunities, both for buying and selling if you're trying to take advantage of the gap fill, and if you try and take advantage of that larger trend at play. That would be nice, but the opportunity I'm more focused with is definitely the shorts here for pound. And again, still looking to target that swing low back at 1.21. And in terms of dollar CAD, massive gap to the upside of this one as well. Huge gap there. Again, really a nasty gap there for any sellers of dollar CAD, really, because we're stuck in that range. It did look like we were breaking outside the range with that candle close. I said on my weekly analysis that price could go fill the gap there. I mean, not fill the gap, sorry. Fill the wick down the left, take out the wick high. That would give me a load of confidence in terms of a breakout, because we've had a lot of fake outs here for dollar CAD. So if price could go take out that wick on the left, that will be a nice reassurance that, okay, this is probably the breakout now, and that we could go see some pullbacks and some continuations to the upside at that point. However, little did I know that we're going to have a massive gap this week and just completely obliterate that high and gap all the way to 1.475. And it's a pretty significant gap, because if I go to the weekly chart, I've been talking about this weekly level of resistance for quite a while. And as you can see, we've actually just gapped straight over it. Have we created a new high past this point? Yes, we have. So it's been a really big move to the upside there for dollar CAD. We haven't poked this high since Jan 2016. So it's been a while. It's been a while since we had these prices, and I do expect price to actually potentially sell off pretty hard for dollar CAD, to be honest. Again, we could see a massive breakout, but because this is such a big level, anyone who is in any long-term dollar CAD buys, you can imagine this is a big profit target for a lot of big buys down at these prices here. A lot of them will probably be looking to secure gains around that high. And of course, a lot of high time frame sellers looking to jump into the trade as well. So I do think dollar CAD can see some retracement. The bigger move may still be to the upside if USD is going to keep its strength, especially if the DXY is going to push back to 113, 114. Then you probably are going to see dollar CAD continue its trend. But there may be some sells in the meantime. In terms of longs, I would like to see price come back, retest this range. I do think there could be a nice opportunity for a bounce. You have to be careful because there is a big level of resistance just above us. But I think this is still a nice area for some longs. But right now, we're definitely in some bearish territory where I do expect to see a bit of a reaction there, and possibly price to go fill that gap there. So, yeah, dollar CAD expecting some retracement. And since we hit some really big levels and create some new highs for a very, very long time. In terms of Aussie dollar, I'm pretty sure we we took out the lows there for Aussie dollar. So again, Aussie dollar, I'm not really, it's difficult to short this one. I still do expect a lot more downside in the long term. Again, we got the COVID lows down here. And that's why I expect the Aussie dollar to be heading in the long term. Excuse me. So I'm still very, very bearish on this one. However, in terms of opportunities, it's a bit slim pickings right now, because since we've taken out these lows, again, now's not the time for me to be jumping into any shorts. If I am going to be looking to short this one, I mean, it's a bit more of a range now since, again, we took at the highs there, took at the lows there. So the market is just a little bit more corrective now with Aussie dollar. The overall trend is still very much down. Don't get me wrong, but in terms of the clarity of the price action, the how clean the trend is at these lows anyway, isn't really of high quality anymore. So if we could drop to the downside, see some new momentum come through, then some pullbacks could be looking good again. But at the moment, I'm not the biggest fan of Aussie dollar's price action. In fact, I probably do expect us to probably go and fill that gap there. Since we just pinched these lows, big wick to the downside, probably will come back and retest this area. It's a bit more of a range now at these lows here. So yeah, not the biggest fan of Aussie dollar price action. Still very bearish longer term. In terms of opportunities to short this one, not looking great, as opposed to some other USD pairs. That is. But yeah, Aussie dollar looks like it probably will potentially fill that gap and see a move to the upside there. New Zealand dollar, did we make new lows with this one? Yes, we did. So same situation here with New Zealand dollar as well. So we just about pinched the lows there after we pinched the highs there. So again, this is starting to form a bit more of a consolidation now rather than a continuation of a trend, which it could eventually be the continuation of a trend. We might consolidate for a few more days, maybe a few more weeks before eventually we do drop to the downside. But then that becomes the move I'm looking for, the sharp break to the downside, pullbacks and then shorts. That's what I'm looking for now. Getting involved in this area just looks a little bit too choppy, a bit too chaotic. I'm not really seeing much clarity in terms of momentum anymore right now with New Zealand dollar and Aussie dollar. So no longer really interested in these pairs here. But again, if we do respect the low there, probably a good chance we do push the upside to go and fill that gap. So that could be a nice opportunity to look at. Not really my type of trade. But I would imagine we probably do have a good chance to see some upside there for both of those currency pairs. In terms of gold, I haven't actually looked at gold yet. Okay, so gold's a bit of a push down and then a little bit of upside. So again, overall still very bullish for gold. I did say in my weekly analysis that the 27.20 level down here still looks like a good buy should price get there. But in terms of intraday price action, I'd probably keep an eye on this high here and the high here on the left as well for some buys. I'd probably look at more the hourly or the 30-minute time frame to get long. Didn't really retest that level well there, but potentially might still see another sell. That could end up being a nice little buy at some point later in the week. But again, in terms of price action for gold, very, very bullish. We have created all-time highs, so maybe gold is going to go for a big retracement at some point. And until we start taking out some of these high lows, that's when I will start to take that retracement a bit more seriously. At the moment in time, the market's still very consistent with these high lows. So in terms of the trend, in terms of momentum for gold right now, it's still very, very bullish until we start to see some heavy signs that, okay, that maybe gold is going to go for a big retracement now. Then we'll start to look at that. And at the moment, still a lot of momentum and probably we'll see price take out these highs pretty soon as well. In terms of silver, again, this is another one which I'm looking to long. However, price action is not quite there yet. Still looking very, very corrective as we approach this area here on the left. And I'm starting to fear potentially price may be looking at a correction for possibly a continuation like this, especially coming to that area. So I'm looking to buy silver with the expectation that we're coming back to the highs there. I'm being patient, waiting for the best time to take the position, especially with the target so high up. I don't need to rush into anything because there's a long way to go if we are going to hit my targets. At the moment, still very, very corrective. We've tapped into a strong area of supply. And if price is going to sell off, this is probably the time and place to do so. So I'm going to keep a close eye on silver, watch out for that opportunity because we could sell off. If we can start to see some price action above the high here at 32.3, that'll give me a lot more confidence that the buys are really going to stay here and probably going to push on. But because we're so corrective still, I know we had some nice momentum there at the end of last week, but it's still within the correctiveness of that channel there. So I'm not a big fan of that price action just yet for silver, but I definitely am looking for some longs back to the high. So if we can take up the high this week, that would be brilliant. and we're expecting more upside, trying to catch those higher lows. So yeah, that's pretty much it for USD.